here or anything like that, but I want to give everybody opportunity to share how the Lord's worked in your life this past week, if you've got something you'd like to share. Because I think that, Roland?
Kathy's aunt is 93 and Kathy's mom's 94. So, yes, they are definitely in the more feeble state. And Kathy's aunt had made arrangements, she thought, so that her body could be taken back home to Youngstown, Ohio when she passed. And you know how far Youngstown is. Jim grew up in Ohio, not quite as far as Youngstown, but it's a long ways from here. And last week, Kathy's cousin called and said they just found out that, well, because her mom had changed her legal address to be with her her daughter, that the policy they had said when it was you had to be more than 100 miles from where your legal address was, and then they would pay for transport to wherever. So now suddenly she's going to be dying at her legal address, and what do we do? How do we handle all this? And the funeral homes were saying $8,000 to $10,000 to transport her back home. I think many of you have heard my views of funeral homes. But she called us, and I got to thinking. I know some people that have a company called, I think it's Caskets Direct or something like that. Anyway, they sell caskets not through the nursing home or funeral homes, but through their own place, and they undercut the funeral homes at least by half. And so I called these people, got a hold of them, called them, and I said, "Is there a legal way for us to transport when she does die? We can just transport her to?" They said, "Oh yeah, here's the way. Here's how we do it," and they know how to do it, and they say, "Yeah, well, it happens all the time. And, we've got the the mini van with fold down seats, and so." And we were able to call back to Kathy's cousin, and you could tell she was just pure panic. She didn't have $8,000, $10,000 to send her mom back to where she wants to die, be buried. And how do we do all this and respect mom's wishes, but on the other hand, we don't have the money? And so I will say, "Sue, we got it. We got it. We'll take care of it." And somehow her cousin has never really been around for all the problems with the Elifson family. We take care of each other. There was thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars our family put forward to take care of when we'd been arrested. And it's no problem. We'll take care of it. We'll just fold the seats down in the van and slip the casket in, and the funeral homes know how to do it, and they put dry ice in with it so you can transport it and put it in the sealed casket, get your paperwork, and away you go. And but you could tell there was just relief on hers, that God provided a way.
Anyone else? Jackie, are you wanting to share? Marilyn's pointing. Marilyn's bidding for you, so I'm just trying to, not forcing anybody, just.
Bill Moore was out working on my Cub Cadet. The belt on the blade broke, and he was working on it, and I was in the driveway, and I turned around and lost my balance and fell face first into the gravel of my driveway, and hit first, I think, on my nose, and both knees in the gravel, and it sort of took my breath away. And Bill asked, "Are you all right?" And I thought, I have to assess the situation to see if anything's broken, because I felt like I was broken, especially my nose. And but the glasses were not broken. So praise the Lord. But I remember the grass coming up really fast. And then Bill had the nerve to say, "Well, you need to practice more push-ups." And I'm thinking, okay. And so anyway, I said, "Just give me a moment." He says, "Well, I'll help you up." I go, "Give me a moment." And but he and I did work at me getting upright once again. I really appreciate him being there. But if he hadn't been there, I don't know that I would have fallen. Anyway. Everything turned out colorful. But I'm not playing the piano this week due to this has not become colorful yet. But it will. Both knees are becoming more so. And my face shows some effort of becoming normal. Thank you, Lord, for my glasses not being broken and that things are healing. So, Lord watches over us. He takes care of us through all.
I heard a different story when she told it to me. She said, "Bill did it." And I'm going to tell everybody.
Yeah, but he and Janelle both laughed back.
Well, Bill's not here to defend himself, so. So yesterday morning, I had another trailer load of carpet to unload, and I got here, and Bill had gotten here early and was mowing. His back was hurting him, so he's not feeling well, along with Janelle not feeling well. I think Janelle's doing better, but now they're both not doing well. They're doing, but they're not doing well. So I'm sure they appreciate an interest in our prayers. For myself, the Lord continues to help me work in the mornings outside, and then I get to go to what I call my paying job and rest in the air conditioning. So no, we have not heard anything more. There was a big family gathering there Thursday and Friday. We now expect, since that has occurred, the city had their zoning meetings and and that has all lined up. So now we expect we may hear something anytime. But I'm trying not to get too caught up in it, because every day I work's a day I get paid. So I just know there's going to be an end at some point, and the further that point away that point is, the better. I also understand why people would at least like to know something, you know, because not everybody's necessarily in my position to where I might be able to retire. Some people need to find something different, and a number of people have, and they're almost running at a point now to where they may find out they don't have enough people to deal with what they got to deal with until the final date gets here because of lack of communication. So I've told somebody, I says, yeah, it's a pretty good case study in how not to treat people. So, and that's my opinion, and I'm trying to take notes so that I don't treat people the same way, you know. But you know, it is what it is, and it's, like I say, when I step back and don't consider the life changes that's going on, it gets pretty comical at times to see, because they had us get rid of a bunch of stuff, and then a week or so ago they started asking for some of it, and it's like, well, you told us to get rid of it, it's done shipped to the recycler, you know. So it's just like, don't know if don't know where communication's breaking down, but there's a lot of communication breakdown happening. So very happy for the guys that have gotten new jobs. Some of them's been transferred to a different facility, and some of them's totally left the company and got better paying jobs with different companies. And so I'm happy for those people, because there's, you know, anyway, I'll just leave it at that. So yeah, but you know, Lord's taking care of me every day, whether I recognize it or not, and I think I try to thank Him for that, because you know, there's been times in my life to where, like what Kathy has shared, you know, you're just overwhelmed and almost to the point of paralysis. And you know, when you can believe and see how the Lord's got you, you know, sometimes it don't look very good for a while, because you got to get through some darkness to get to the other side, or rough water, or whatever you like to analogize it with. But as long as you can believe He's got you, and then when you get to the other side, just to see how He worked it all together for whoever's benefiting good, it's a great thing.
That's a good example close to home of the world building temples to idolatry. Build a place for millionaires to make more millions while working people are put out of work. But the main reason I took this is I really want you all to pray for Laverne. The clinic tried to tell her she needed to go to Guatemala for more care than she can get at the clinic, and of course that's impossible. And she's got infection. She's trying to heal from 4 surgeries, and she has infection in 3 of them. And she was supposed to call me last night, but I just got a brief text last night saying that she wasn't feeling good. She was going to bed. I haven't heard from her yet this morning. So I'm going to leave my phone on. If you hear it beep while I'm up there behind the pulpit this morning, that's a good thing, because she's texted.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to hear. Lauren?
I just want to be thankful that I have the Lord with me since I, got baptized and stuff, because, we've been struggling for the past 5 years in life, and just, it's just been really hard to, see the light at the end of the tunnel. this week I've been dealing with something I'm trying not to have anger in my heart about, and the Lord's helped me really through that, because before I got baptized and before I, started, well, I mean, I've always believed in God, but before, I don't know how to say it really, but before I would be really upset about this situation, but now it's just something, maybe it's because I've came to not expect it anymore, but I have Avery, she's my daughter, and her dad, he's been in and out of her life, and he owes me about 16 grand in back child support, but he picked her up on Friday, and I had spoken to him before he came and got her and said, this year, I'm just struggling financially, and I don't really have the money to buy her clothes and her school supplies for school and stuff. Could you help out since you're not paying child support and you owe me money? I didn't say all that, but that's what my mind was thinking, And he said that he would, and I said, well, it'd probably cost, about a couple $100, I would say. I'm not sure, and I was trying to be nice about it, and I said, you think you can swing that? And he said, well, I guess I'll have to. So he picks her up Friday morning, and she calls me later that afternoon, and she said that, well, Dad took me to go get some clothes, and I said, well, where'd you go? And she told me that he took her to the Goodwill store. And I'm not above going to the Goodwill store, but that just angered me, because if I wanted her to have Goodwill clothes, I could do that. I'm still trying to rationalize it, and also with her, because I would think she would be more angry about it, but she wasn't really angry about it. I just asked her, well, are you happy with what you got? And she said, yeah. But if that's something that I had tried to do, no. No way. I had already talked to her before that about going to the free backpack program in our local town, and they were giving out haircuts and stuff, and she had made an issue about that, saying, oh, it would be embarrassing and stuff like that. So it just angered me that if I was to do that for her, I wouldn't get that same reaction. But he doesn't, and it's fine. And amidst me trying to rationalize it, I came to the conclusion that all these years she's so desperately just wanted him to be in her life. And so any time that she gets with him, she cherishes it, and that's great for her. But it's really hard for me to not be angry about. But with that being said, the Lord has, I guess, healed my heart to where that anger doesn't no longer consume me the way that it used to. Like, I probably would have used to called him and said something and, cussed him out. I don't know. But now I didn't even pick up the phone. He doesn't even know that this is an issue in my life. That he probably will know, because this was kind of I wouldn't say a test, because I'm not that type of person, but it was more along the lines of everybody's been saying that I should push the child support issue, and he could get in trouble, go to jail, all this other stuff, and that's just not who I am as a person, and I didn't want to do that to him. But this was kind of that waking moment for me that, you know what, I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to go after him for child support, because I can't do it by myself right now. And I want her to have what she needs and not struggle. So that's all I have to say. If anybody has any advice, I would love to hear it.
Well, we'll certainly keep that in our prayers, because I know the one guy that can handle that for sure. And sometimes his ways, it's pretty unusual how he gets it handled. So anyway, so last Sunday school class was 2 weeks ago, and we had read John chapter 17, and that's where Jesus was praying for his apostles, and he was also praying for all those that would believe on their words, which qualifies us. I'm assuming, since we're sitting around a table in church this morning, looking at our scriptures and sharing testimonies of how the Lord works in our life. And Brother Roland has shared his testimony many times of when he was incarcerated in jail, and that he actually saw this. He was given a vision and saw Jesus praying for people, and that in Roland's experience is that he saw Jesus pray for each person in the world by name, that there was God basically stopped time so that Jesus could pray for each and every one, not just throw the blanket prayer out there like I do sometimes. It was a good thing. We had to finish up pretty quickly to get the last couple of verses covered, but I'd like to read the last two verses of John 17, verses 25 and 26. O righteous Father, the world hath not known thee, but I have known thee. This is Jesus speaking. I have known thee, and these have that thou hast sent me. And I have declared unto them thy name, and will declare it, that the love wherewith thou hast loved me may be in them, and I in them. And so I just wanted to emphasize that Jesus was working hard, for lack of a better term, to get the disciples to understand God's love for them, that they may share God's love with everyone around them. And that's kind of what we're sharing here when the Lord works in our lives, is we're recognizing a facet of God's love working in our life, and we're trying to share that. And, you know, Lauren, I can understand about your anger. Been there, done that myself. And thought I'd done pretty good with it, and then I had to do a repeat on it, and I'm still struggling in the repeat of it, and so when it says when something's cast out and it comes back 7 times, if you let it back in, it's 7 times worse. I think the principle is true. I don't know that I'm 7 times worse, but I'm making headway. But what I really got disgusted with was the fact that I let myself get angry to start with. And I'm just thankful that the Lord doesn't leave us alone. And yes.
Down at Richmond Branch, when we were meeting, the Davis family went through this with the child support not being paid. And the members of the family ended up in jail. Then they get out of jail, and then they go back to jail. And it just was a revolving door of what I think unhappiness, that nothing seemed to be right in this situation. Nothing. Work and not work, not pay, not support. It was just a hard journey that I think still affects people even nowadays. The same family issues of how they went in and out of jail, and I thought, well, if you're going into jail, you don't have a job, and I don't know, it just didn't seem to balance out right, you know.
I'd just comment, you know, it wasn't so much that she was happy with what she got. She was probably just as upset about going to a discount store It's just a matter of being with their dad. Girls tend to be daddy's girls and boys tend to be mommy's boys. It just divides up that way for some reason. But I'd like to comment on verse 26. There's a really important little item in there, in that last phrase, that the love wherewith thou hast loved me may be in them, not towards them, but in them. That's the same as the will of the Son being swallowed up in the will of the Father, and our wills being swallowed up in His wills.
And in my interpretation of that,
And that's what's happening with you by the anger not hitting you like it used to.
is that thou hast, wherewith thou hast loved me may be in them, and I in them. It's not just to experience that love, but it's to be able to express that love back to others that we have received from the Father. Yeah, and that is an example of the Holy Spirit working in you. But it's a constant process that we have to stay engaged in. My second go around with anger is because I didn't check myself. I let myself go, and I knew it was happening, and I just failed. I guess maybe that's how it is for people that struggle with chemicals when they know they shouldn't be picking up another bottle or another syringe or whatever, but they do it anyway. I don't know. Roland, are you wanting to jump in here?
When we read that 26th chapter or verse of that chapter, I've declared unto them that thy name, and will declare it, that the love where thou hast loved me may be in them, and I in them. I was taken back to that experience. And that experience of the love that I felt at that moment. And it was born to me that I need to learn how to love and share that love. That's part of what it was. That His love was in them, and they were called to share that love with others. And it came to me more strong than ever before. How much He loves me, how much He loves each one of us. And that's the beauty of the gospel. That's also the answer to how to bring people back, or bring people into the gospel. We have to learn how to love that, share that love in such a manner that all might know that He loves us.
We've been studying sanctification, and there's a kind of an overlap or a dependency between growing in sanctification and growing in grace. And what's transpiring in your heart, Lauren, is that as you grow in sanctification, you grow in grace by losing the anger. The definition of growing in grace is growing in the joy of the Lord. And that's what's happening in your life. You're growing in sanctification by getting closer to God, and you're growing in the joy of the Lord from grace to grace.
Yeah, along that line, one of the hardest things it seems to be in human nature is to be joyful for the joy that other people have, and that seeing the blessings that they get in their life when maybe we're feeling we're not receiving blessings. But to be joyful for other people and what they're receiving, kind of like what you're saying, you're just glad your daughter is getting some decent time with her dad. That's the big important thing. And then there's all this little stuff around it that's like gnats trying to irritate you, and when you can, the big thing is happening. The rest of this stuff is just stuff. And it's good to talk about it, because if I have found when I suppress the stuff too long, then it becomes big things. And when in reality it's not a big thing, it's just gnats irritating me. So, but Steve is right. That's part of growing in grace to grace and growing in sanctification, is going through things and understanding that, and just that we're able to deal with them differently than we have in the past. And we see a lot of people in the world that don't cope well with what's going on around them or in their lives. And, it's easy to say Jesus is the answer. It's another thing to help that person find Jesus in their life to where they're able to work with that. And that's why it's important for me that we share every Sunday morning during Sunday school class and Wednesday night prayer service testimonies of how Jesus is working in our life, that we recognize what he's doing for us. And it's great when someone is healed of a terrible disease or something else, but it's also just as great, in my opinion, when we're just having good ordinary days. And a peaceful day is one of the most valued things a person can have, in my opinion. And so to share those things, I think are very important. And that is a form of worship to God, is when we thank him for what he's doing for us. And that's one of the things that I just try to pray often, that he open my eyes and my ears to see and hear the things he's doing, so that I express appropriate appreciation. It's easy to say, God, thank you for everything you're doing for me, but doesn't mean I recognize what he is doing for me. And so, and I don't know that he needs me to list everything out all the time, but at the same time, I just don't want it to become an empty ritual. It's just something that I automatically say and do. I've heard a lot of people, when they hang up the phone, whoever they're talking to, love you. I mean, doesn't matter who they're talking to, is love you. And it's like, and that's something that didn't happen in my family, and so it's like, is that, yeah, I'm not trying to belittle them for that. It's just that it's like, okay, do you really, or is that just different from saying goodbye, or later, or whatever, however you close your phone conversation with. And sometimes it's different for me with different people, but I was questioning how much true feeling of love is behind that, or was it like, well, if something happens and I never talk to them again, that's the last thing they heard me say? Not that that's a bad thing, but I just trying to, exactly how much feeling and sincerity is in that, saying that. And so that's kind of all that to say, I hope my expressions towards other people are felt that there's sincerity in that. Because it's easy, well, it's one thing to tell people, Jesus loves you. It's another thing to be able to tell it to them in a way to where they can feel that you mean it, is what I'm trying to say. And so, again, that's why it's important, at least in my opinion, it's important why we recognize what Jesus is doing in our lives every day. So the last time we had Sunday school class, as we got towards the end, Jackie mentioned section 85 in the Doctrine and Covenants. And I've kind of been glancing through that a little bit this morning, and there's a lot about that, but we didn't come together. I didn't make the announcement that we would read that the next time we come together, so I know some of you probably have gone and checked it out some, and some of us waited till today or whenever. 85, section 85. It's a long section. There's a lot in there. And there's even a spot in paragraph 5, because Lauren had asked last week about the different degrees of heaven, and there's some talk about that in there. So I think what we're going to do is we'll start with section 85 today. We got a few minutes left for Sunday school. Want to try to get done in time to get ready for the next service. But we'll start on this, and we're just going to we'll work with section 85 in Doctrine and Covenants here for a couple of weeks or more, because it's going to take us a while to get through it. It's a long section, but it does, the early parts of it for sure, work in with sanctification. So in the historical context header, it says revelation given through Joseph Smith Jr. at Kirtland, Ohio, December 27th, 1832. There had been some friction between leaders in Independence and those in Kirtland. Joseph sent a copy of this revelation with a letter to William W. Phelps, who was in Missouri, and referred to it as the olive leaf, the Lord's message of peace to us. It has since been known as the olive leaf. And so that's kind of the background of the context of what this was given of, is that there was, the church was in Kirtland, and there's a good number of them had already came to Missouri, and there were struggles going on in both places, and there were struggles between the people of both places. Only 2.5 years after the church had been organized. And so since there's and the church was growing very rapidly, you had a lot of people coming in, a lot of personalities, a lot of thoughts and ideas coming, and it's no wonder there was conflict. I'd been very surprised if there wasn't conflict. Anyway, yes, Jackie.
Just a question. Olive leaf, what does that signify?
Well, well, an olive branch is typically is a symbol of peace. That it's an assigned symbol of peace. I'd have to go back and read the account of Noah's ark, but when the dove came back with a branch, I don't remember if it was from an olive, if it specifically says olive branch, and if it was because the first bird he'd sent out came back with nothing, and the next time he sent a bird out, it didn't come back. And then when he sent the dove out, which is also a symbol of peace, it came back with an olive branch. And so it's just always, olive branches and doves are associated with peace. And I'm sure if we did a deep dive research on olive trees, we may learn even more about it. But yes, Melissa, let's get the microphone to Melissa there.
I don't know. I guess I knew about the olive branch being a symbol of peace and the dove, but I guess I always felt like that particular scripture was referring to God reaching for us. For him reaching for us to establish peace in some way. And when he returned to Jerusalem in triumph, I guess I felt like that was an offering, like, hey, I'm here, you know. Just to my way of thinking anyway. I know that there are various ways to look at that, I'm sure, but
No, I think you've got something there, Melissa. I think the Lord shared this with Joseph to share with the whole church, to try to, hey, everybody, calm down a little bit. Let's understand some things, and let's pull together, not against each other. And so, yeah, like we do today. Traditions have had to been dealt with all through history. It's just a part of our human nature. It's just a part of us, a part of how we are. We like those traditions sometimes too much.
Yeah, I just recently read through the Doctrine and Covenants, and I was shocked at how many of the revelations in there have to do with putting down contention and having unity. I mean, here the church is only 2 years old and it's already started. I think that's why they never settled the question about whether to worship on the sun in the sky's holy day or on the Lord's holy day that was set aside by the Lord, being the Sabbath. Also, did anybody look up the definition of S-A-B-A-O-T-H in the next verse? In the next verse, we have S-A-B-A-O-T-H, and this is the only place that occurs in the Doctrine and Covenants. That's not Sabbath. Is that another rendition of Sabbath? Does anybody know?
There in 1B, Jackie. So starting at 1A, verily thus saith the Lord unto you, who have assembled yourselves together to receive his will concerning you. Behold, this is pleasing unto your Lord, and the angels rejoice over you. The alms of your prayers have come up into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth, and are recorded in the book of the names of the sanctified, even them in the celestial world, which would be considered the highest heaven. Let's get the, yes.
This is a definition from the 1828 dictionary. Sabaoth, it's a noun, armies, a word used in Romans 9:29, James 5:4, the Lord of Sabaoth. Means armies.
Host of armies. Armies or host of armies. And it was also in, what was the New Testament? Okay. So this one place in Doctrine and Covenants in the New Testament, 2 or 3 places. So well, we're never too old to learn, are we?
Yeah, I'm looking at it here. It appears twice in the New Testament, Romans 9:29 and James 5:4. It is not Sabbath. It is the Lord of hosts. Romans 9:29, James 5:4. It is the Lord of hosts. You know, there are elsewhere it talks about the Lord of hosts, the mighty one.
The hosts of heaven.
Yeah, and
So,
so
yeah,
this is not saying I'm the Lord of Sabbath, which he is. I'm not denying that.
Right.
But he is the Lord of hosts, the mighty one, the powerful.
So he's making a declaration.
Yeah, he's saying,
Yeah.
listen to me, I am
Yeah,
the I am.
right. Okay, so we're at about 10 till. So let's go ahead and close the class down so we got time to get everything wrapped up so we can get the next service started. But next week, we'll start here at section 85. If you want to do some reading ahead and come up with questions or other scripture references or whatever. But we are still continuing on in trying to understand our process of sanctification in our lives.